Good morning, and welcome to today's webcast, Artificial Intelligence Governance, Introducing AI into Your Organization. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thank you for viewing our webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters from Moss Adams, Casey Fike, Senior Manager, and Brian Schader, Partner. With that, I'll turn it over to Casey to get things started.
Chad, I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for attending today. Again, appreciate it as well. This is something, AI, clearly a hot topic. We're very excited to talk more about it. And then for today, areas we want to cover is AI in practice. So how are organizations adopting it? How do we think through it? Effective use cases. How do we manage this AI kind of behemoth that's coming into organizations? Stepping in then into, here's how we view AI governance, right? So this is our firm's approach that we're sharing, working with our clients on to effectively use artificial intelligence within their organizations. And then we'll end with how an example use case of how we're assisting our clients in applying this model that we're going to present today. Before we jump into it, just a quick polling question. So what it says here is which best describes your organization's experience with AI use cases? So kind of runs the gamut here. We haven't started exploring AI yet, all the way down to we have a center of excellence, or we're just kind of thinking through different cases and different uses. So we'll give everybody a few moments. All right. Just, yes, hit the answer and then submit. Thanks, Chad. And I think one of the things we're kind of looking for these answers coming in. If you have questions, please use that Q&A down below, right? I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all the questions, but please ask away, right? This is a new technology. So Brian, kind of what we're seeing here, kind of what I expected, right? Or what we expected. We haven't started, or we're trying to identify a use case. I see the answers down below. The least is kind of what I expect as well, is we have that AI center of excellence, but anything here kind of jump out to you?
No, I think this resonates as we've talked with clients around what they're doing, and a lot are in the pilot kind of, figuring out where it makes sense for them in the organization. So I think this resonates with what we see when we talk with clients.
Got it. Agree there. Got it. So the first section, let's just kind of have a general conversation of AI. It's kind of that first point there. AI, it's a buzzword, right? And I think big thing for us, in addition to this governance model we'll go through, is just our approach to AI is we really want to tame the hype. There's a ton out there, right? Ton in media. I saw a stat today on the percentage of S&P 500 companies talking about AI in their earnings call, right? So it's a market driver. There's a ton of investment from a lot of big players. But But what we want to talk about today is how we view artificial intelligence, just because it is so broad. Many view AI as the future. I think talking about it personally, with generative AI, those large language models like ChatGPT, Anthropic, it's really made me be more effective in my day-to-day tasks, right? I think we're experimenting with use cases internally at Moss Adams, in addition to our clients, on how they can drive innovation internally, become a more effective organization. But to that third point, we're seeing a lot of organizations rushing into AI, not having a good use case, spending a significant amount of money and investment and time, instead of kind of taking an iterative approach, right? Starting with a smaller group within your organization, vetting it, testing it, identifying some good use cases, and then expanding. The fourth point there, I've kind of covered this, what we're doing internally around generative artificial intelligence, but it's transforming business models and how we operate internally, right? I think kind of like, as I mentioned, day to day, I'm using our internal Mosh GPT resource more than I'm using a web search to run down some piece of information or question I might have. It's made me, again, as I mentioned, more effective, more operationally efficient as an employee within Moss Adams. And then this last piece, again, as I mentioned, taming the hype, AI, generative AI, this is changing every day. Every day, every evening, I'm spending a decent amount of time just researching, understanding use cases, how these models are evolving and changing. Again, this is something, very new technology that is going to continue to advance and move quickly, again, as investments and time pour into it.
Before we move on, Casey, I think it's amazing. And I think a lot of this is really defining when we talk about AI and the hype. I think it's a lot of the excitement around what generative AI is doing. Yes. And, we've seen the videos or, images or things that AI is creating, which just kind of astound us, right? The huge leap forward in what the technology can do. But as I was thinking about this, like, we've been implementing machine learning for years, right? That's not a new concept. Many of us interacted with kind of the Amazon's chatbots or, other companies' chatbots, which are using machine learning to kind of do predictive analysis to help you interact to solve your problem. So the idea of machine learning is not necessarily new. I think it's just that next level down of the generative AI piece, which is exciting. But I think this is where, as you move into your next slide, some of the challenges that organizations are feeling. We saw this from the polling question is, it's cool stuff, but how do I translate cool stuff into business value, right?
Exactly. Right. And that's a good point. And we'll talk about that with the use case and throughout the presentation. But it's, again, for us, it was, we saw this power, again, when ChatGPT came out. Like, I heard about it anecdotally. I was asking people to describe it, and they're like, well, it's like Google, but it just gives you the answer versus half a page of ads or whatever that is, right? So it was me just kind of like stepping in and just kind of giving, testing it. Here, I have this, I'm trying to fix this bug in Tableau. What am I doing wrong with my my formula, right? And then that spurred us internally. Again, and we'll talk about data privacy, data security throughout this, but it's, we need to keep our data private and secure. And that's a risk with using these third-party tools, which really spurred us to come up with our internal solution. But Brian, kind of what you were just saying there, it's, we're starting organization. I mean, we're in the crib here. We're in our infancy as an organization of using generative AI. And I think also that's what we saw in the polling question is there's some organizations that aren't quite where we are today, which is absolutely fine. Again, we'll emphasize this. We'll say this throughout, but we're so early on. Organizations are just still, to your point, trying to figure out like what is that right use case, or do we take that approach where we just identify a team? I saw this also on there as well, where we have a center of excellence around AI, right? And that's, again, those individual organizations, they're far down the path, but I really like that approach where, again, thinking through this, they might have come out with that pilot program, if you will, to get generative AI in the hands of their end users, keeping that data secure, and then just kind of learning very iteratively, right? Staying very small. The second point you brought up there, like machine learning, which generative AI is a part of, it's not a new concept, right? So predictive analytics, that kind of, I'll call it classical machine learning, that's been around for years. And so that's kind of, I have a ton of data on past transactions. When is a customer likely to churn or cancel their subscription, or anything around healthcare, around testing drug efficacy? Like, this is something that's not necessarily new. It's just when we talk generative AI, to your point, which has the public, us, quite frankly, to be very excited, the advancements that have been made in this technology in the past 5-ish, 7-ish years, like that's what's really kind of driving these discussions. That third point there, again, we'll cover this later in the deck, but it's really crucial as an organization, and this should be at the top. This should be at board level. How do we establish, what are the rules around using generative AI internally? What are the rules? What are our policies, procedures? How are we securing this? These need to be thought through. And again, we'll kind of lay out our model for that later in the deck. But that concept, it can't just be we're throwing it to our team and they're going to go just run with it, right? I think that introduced a lot of risks rather than thinking through, here are the risks, how do we mitigate? Again, kind of leading into this, I talked about this, but it's that pilot approach where we're seeing good success, which we saw internally, to then rolling that out to the larger organization. And then that last piece, how do we assess the ROI, right? I think what I'm seeing internally through my own use case here at Moss Adams is, again, I can do more now than I could prior to using our generative AI solution, right? And again, my use case, Brian, going to be different than your use case. It's going to be different than somebody's use case that's on this call today. But again, it's just kind of thinking through, where am I struggling? Where do I need some efficiency? And then again, leveraging those pilot programs, those use cases to then drive that operational efficiency. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but.
Well, we had a speaker come to us to talk about, this concern a lot of us have with AI is going to take our jobs. And the speaker clarified, AI is not going to take your job. It's the person who understands how to use AI that's going to take your job. And I think that's so important as we talk through this. And we're hinting at this, and we'll dive more. It's here. It's already in most organizations through various third-party systems or SaaS applications you're already using. And now it's training our teams and our people to be able to use it effectively to increase productivity. You've kind of danced around that topic a little bit already, but really it's how do you increase user productivity or improve your process? That's really what's going to drive your business value to why adoption is important.
Yeah, that's spot on. I think to that point, it's like, it's augmenting me. If I'm just thinking about myself around using generative AI, I talked about this, but it's like, I'm more effective. I can get more done in my day-to-day, right? Again, my use case is unique, but again, it's not coming for your jobs, our jobs.